If you've got a question, the voices of resin are here. Oh, PlastChicks.
PlastChicks is an SPE sponsored podcast.
Hello, Lynzie Nebel.
Hello, Mercedes Landazuri. How are you?
I'm good. You are all recovered from your COVID bout?
Our potential Omicron COVID. You know what? It might have depleted some brain cells while it was in there. I think basically what I'm saying is I think we had both kinds, just several weeks apart. So that's exciting. No. But yes, we're all recovered.
That's
what I
great.
just said. Yes.
Well, great. I'm Mercedes Landazuri.
And I'm Lynzie Nebel.
And with our powers combined, we are PlastChicks.
The voices of
resin.
And so, we are here. We're recording a great episode. Closing out season 3. I'm gonna hold up 3 fingers.
This is the last episode of season 3?
This is the last episode of season 3, as far as I know, until someone proves me wrong. And so it should be a good one.
So our podcast PlastChicks, we both work in the plastics industry. We met through our industry association, Society of Plastics Engineers, SPE, and immediately got obsessed with each other because we looked and talked a little bit different than a lot of the other people in the industry. We started the podcast to spread the good word
and spend more time
spread the good resin. Spend more time together, really. But just to talk to people that we knew in the industry or wanted to know, and
use it as an excuse to talk to cool people.
Yeah, and get the word out, really and truly, to really educate the public, not just people in our industry, but talk about current events and new technologies in our industry, but really expose the greater public, anybody who can listen to a podcast, really, to plastics. Because I'm someone who didn't have a plastics background when I came into the industry, and probably 7 years ago thought plastics were evil. And I pretty quickly, working in color, found out that they're wonderful. Lynzie, on the other hand, has always known to be in this industry. Anyway, so we started this podcast. It is sponsored by SPE, the industry association that we met through, and it's released the first Friday of every month.
Yep, and you can catch it on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere you can catch your podcasts. And we also have the video version on YouTube that usually comes out about a week later.
Or you can find us on social media, on Twitter, PlastChicks, PlastChicks. No PlastiChicks, just PlastChicks. Also on Instagram or anywhere else. We talked about doing a TikTok, but enough about us.
Too much time on us. We have a guest from the where people try to put the I in PlastChicks is because they are all familiar with PlastiVan, and so I get it. I understand the need to put the I in PlastChicks, but it's not there. So today we actually have one of their educators, Evan Morton, the coordinator of sustainability and communications and PlastiVan Educator.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I just first want to say you all are amazing, just funny. So it just comes off amazing. I appreciate you having me for this podcast, and I'm excited to have some good conversation.
Oh, well, thanks for saying that. Because sometimes we as we were discussing, we're basically just trying to figure out if we're hot messes or hotter messes. It's
hot messier.
Hot messiers. That's where we landed. So obviously we're doing really well. But Evan, we have heard just incredible things about you. Eve Vitale, who is the PlastiVan headmistress. We'll call her headmistress. That sounds better. She just raves over you. I heard so much from her about like when she was talking to you, like in the hiring process, or actually I don't know where it was in the process, but just glowing reviews. And then, I was like, okay, I'm sure he's cool, but like, he can't be like that cool. And then all of a sudden, we're getting ready to make this podcast. And so obviously we need to do a little bit of our homework, and we start looking at your LinkedIn page. And like, besides just like hearing you talk, I think in one of the last meetings you were able to join for SPE's council, I think that was the last meeting you were in. And, just hearing some of the really good insight you have, but now like putting together with like your LinkedIn page and like seeing your like actual experience, like, oh man, like she might have undersold you, I think. And like, you have this like really great experience for being, so freshly graduated. Can you kind of tell us about the path to like to meeting Eve and like kind of getting started with PlastiVan?
Yeah, no problem at all. That's a great question. And when I was a kid, I was always interested in science. So it was just something that was very new to me. Just growing up, it was just a wide range of opportunity for me to be able to be involved, because I was able to go outside and see the world in a natural environment and a built environment at the same time because of, pure Michigan. So when I was in grade school, 6th grade, I was introduced to Ecotech, which is a science-based laboratory in Detroit. And every Saturday up until 12th grade, I was able to do science experiments and be able to travel just across the United States to talk to different nations like the United Nations, going there and being able to talk to world leaders, or going to Sarasota, Florida and learning about marine technology and having a central focused on environmental sustainability and bioplastics, biofuels, alternative sources. So it's just been an amazing experience up to now. Even further into the future it still will be, but it's an amazing experience to be able to go from a child to now, to see how much times have changed and how much I've grown. So during college, I was able to become a researcher at Michigan State University, and that's what really kickstarted a real passion for what I was doing and why I wanted to be a researcher in the Geocognition Lab. So within that experience of just being able to present, being able to follow through with research, and being able to actually create a poster, it just really gave me a good insight onto where I want to go as a profession. And so I linked back up with Mr. Young, who is the owner of Ecotech Labs. And he gave me an awesome recommendation saying, there's an opportunity for you to be able to work within PlastiVan. It's a program that focuses on teaching children around plastics. And it sounded really nice. And I was looking for something, especially since it was my last semester of college. I wanted to get more experience. And this was right up my alley. So I sent Eve a message. We had a conversation and a great call. And then literally a day later, I get a call back saying, so yeah, we're trying to hire you right now. So wait, right now, I'm still in college. Like, yeah, right now.
Right now. She means it right now.
So being a PlastiVan educator for that semester not only helped me push through the rest of the school, but it also just made my time much more fresher because I was able to start my career. So that's kind of how me and Eve got started.
Were you, not to interrupt, but were you just totally, because I would be very obnoxious to my friends if I got hired in college, before the semester was even over. I'd be like, I am that amazing that I already have a job, and you guys are suckers that still have to go out and look. Please tell me there was at least a little bit of you that rubbed it in people's faces.
So there definitely was a little bit of me that rubbed it in. Going to state and then having to just again readjust for a year and having different experiences for working at restaurants to working for grassroots organizations and even doing research at the same time. Having that year gap was just it humbled me in ways I thought I could never understand what it meant to be in that position. So when I was able to, like you said, when I was able to graduate, I have a job right out of college, it it put me on top of the world. I think Rob Thomas, These Little Wonders, or Little Wonders, the song from Meet the Robinsons. That's exactly how it felt.
So you felt on top of the world, but like it was already after you had spoken at the United Nations, like in your youth.
Yeah, at that point, that's all back window stuff, right?
I'm just even more embarrassed. We just interview the coolest people. Like, it's just like, it's just totally embarrassing for us. Like,
I mean, I want to feel bad every week.
Right. But so Eva introduced us, Evan, virtually like 8 months ago or something. You were still in college then. You're a really recent grad. And it's just amazing. I was impressed pretty quickly, in our first call that we had, because we've only met virtually, right? And got involved in the recycling division of SPE, and obviously now you're not just working for PlastiVan, but for SPE corporate or headquarters. I thought, when we were having our recycling division conference, or the race conference rather, I thought, I bet he's a really good public speaker. And I was totally blown away when you presented.
Thank you.
I mean, I shouldn't have been, but it makes sense now that you've had experience speaking at the UN,
The UN was where he went in and was just like, hey guys, what's up? So this was really the big time.
He's like, the UN was like his Toastmasters. We're writing your history.
It's fine.
If you'd like PlastChicks to create like an intro for your autobiography,
we're available on Cameo. Yeah. So, I mean,
one thing that intrigued me, Evan, about you our first conversation, you just, oh, go ahead. I think I have a little bit of a lag there.
Yeah, you do. You're a little behind.
Okay, well, Lynzie, why don't you tell about your bag trauma, and because Evan has a cool that he did in college.
So, I mean, I'm not even sure I know which bag woes you're talking about, because I feel like I just am so angry at the world when it comes to their decisions with bags and lack of education, which I have to imagine, somewhat resonates with you, Evan, because I mean, it's not a mystery that the general population has no idea what bags are actually good for them and what bags are like worse for the environment. They just hear what they want to hear, they see what they want to see, and then it's nope, plastic bags are bad and paper bags are a number one, or these like cloth tote bags that I'm going to use once they're great, and I will just I do have a whole rant about it, but I don't know if that's the direction.
Basically, all you need to know is now that New York has their plastic bag ban, single-use bag ban.
Yes.
Lynzie has like a smuggling ring where she takes.
I do have a
plastic
smuggling
bags
operation.
To,
I smuggle plastic bags, contraband style, over the New York State border and bring them to my family. It is harrowing at times, but we're getting by. Yeah. So you did a project at Michigan State on those bags then?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I did a research project at Michigan State University my senior year, and this was my first time really interacting with college level research, but it was the consumer bag choice, an exploratory study of the consumer behavior and their bag choice. So really in focusing on that, I worked in a lab called the Geocognition Lab at Michigan State University, the GRL as we like to call ourselves. And within that lab, what we do is focus on people and how they perceive, understand, and make choices and decisions about the planet, and also focusing on the access, inclusion, and equity of justice in STEM. And within that geocognition laboratory for that year, I was understanding so much about human decision-making and understanding that it's a large component of our everyday life. So these choices that we make on a day-to-day basis, what music we listen to, what food we eat, what we do, these possibilities are endless. And when we focus on that sustainability aspect of it, that is when it's critical. So what I wanted to look at in this study was the consumer bag preference. We can't get rid of plastics. Plastics are ubiquitous. We can't get rid of it. We have to learn to live with it and learn ways to recycle it, right? So what are ways that people can be incentivized to be able to either recycle it, use less bagging when grocery shopping, or maybe even a company or a government incentive to have you, again, learn how to recycle your plastics and understand where they come from. So there was an amazing study. That was an amazing project. And thank you for asking.
Yeah, I have to imagine, there's a lot of those areas I feel like are all kind of, in some respect, low hanging fruit. I mean, I am a former cashier in my youth, and I remember I was great at bagging. Like, I could stuff so many things in there and it would fit and it would be great, and like it never broke because it was a really well done. Like, if you had too many boxes, you got to put something soft on there.
I never knew this about you. It's amazing.
I got skills. And now, like, my complaint to my husband, because I do the grocery shopping and I go every Saturday morning, I go to Wegmans and I go to Starbucks. Like, that's my thing. And my complaint is always that they are putting like one thing in a bag. Like, there are so many times where it's like, and it drives me nuts, because I look at it and I'm like, okay, you're probably the same type of person complaining about the fact that we're using too much plastic bags. And here you are, like, just easily doubling the amount of plastic bags I could have used. And like, that is like one area that's like super low hanging fruit. Like, yes, just proper training. Like, okay, to apply it across the country is probably a little more drastic, but it's stuff like that I think people overlook. And to hear that you're kind of like placing the actual like human element into a project like that, I feel like that's really cool. Like, I know we're going off book, but like, if you could go back in that lab and do like a research project on anything kind of along those same lines, like, is there another like plastic sin that you would kind of like try to choose to like analyze the human brain with regards to the plastic sin, if that makes sense? Hopefully we get the video of this.
Honestly, yeah, I would say if I could go into the lab and research one more thing, it would be, I'm very interested in the family. It's family lineage. It's family lineage that gets the ideas that have shaped our idealism within the world today. So if I could look back and see, where do we start recycling? As far as curbside pickup, I want to see what would that family dynamic look like, as far as, did the kid introduce the recycling first, or was it the parent? And see the differences between, to see if there's a correlation between when we started recycling, way back then, versus who's recycling now, or who's the main component of the family that recycles now.
Oh, that's cool. That would be super interesting, because, I don't know off the top of my head, like, I don't know what level of consistency that would be. I'm trying to think.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we talk about education a lot, but yeah, we really don't talk about outside of that, sustainability and really coming from the family first. So actually, kind of segue from that, you said that you got involved in ecotech in 6th grade.
Yep. And so 6th grade.
So 6th grade. So what spurred that? Did that come from your family? Do you have scientists in your family?
So that's the funny thing. I don't really have scientists in my family. We're all in the aspect of fundraising and healthcare. So it was more of like working along the banking route, or, that kind of system. Even my brother and my sister, I have a brother and a sister, both older than me, but they're not even following in the footsteps of, what my mom and dad did. So it's a different kind of experience as far as that. first conversation with Mr. Young and being introduced at a young age. I think that's what it is.
Do you think, an introduction at, like say you had like not met Mr. Young, you kind of like skipped over this lab, do you think with just your high school education and like not that component of the lab, do you think you would have kind of grown up with this like plastics is bad mentality? Or do you think, that's the only thing that saved you from the plastics is bad? Because I hear that that's being taught a lot more in schools these days.
Yeah, I think that for me, if I wasn't introduced at a young age, I wouldn't have found a passion to care about it, to inquire or even understand what's going on. That was the whole driving force behind it. So I couldn't agree more, just as far as being able to have that opportunity to be able to shed light to a child on something that might need to change or their perceptions changing.
Yeah. And I think that's what scares me is, I volunteer, that's something completely unrelated. And there's this little girl playing with Legos, and I was playing with the Legos, and she like came over and she was like, I said like, come play with the Legos with me, like something along those lines. And she's like, I can't, these Legos are bad for the environment. And I was like, girl, you are like 5, 6 years old. Like, I don't know how old you are, but like, and I'm like, somebody told you that. Like, you didn't just think like that toy is bad for the environment. Like, somebody told you that, and somebody is teaching you that. And like, to counteract that, we do need a lot more education at a young age, education, introduction, and you don't even have to go full education. Introduction is, is a helpful thing. And that's what I do love about like PlastiVan. Have you been able to teach in any classes yet? Do any in-school demonstrations? I know with COVID, it's a little hit and miss these days.
Yeah, right. It's a weird experience, being hired in while COVID was happening. So a lot of it was happening virtual for that semester I was in college. And even in the summer, it was just kind of all virtual. Even teaching Kids International was a great experience, but it was virtual as well. So now that we're moving into this new phase of, people back then when it was August and, summer and everything, we kind of thought, well, we can do physical meetups because we have a STEM program that we just started this past year that focuses on teaching and building up those 6th through 8th graders to be able to do research in high school. But through that experience of, I was working with Detroit Edison Public School Academy in Detroit, Michigan, and I've been able to go every single week to DEPSA and teach the children on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they have a good COVID protocol in place. But I've had experiences in the classroom and I've had experiences at events, but it's not the traditional sense. But what is tradition at this point?
Tradition is out the window.
So that's really exciting. You got involved, in Ecolab when you were in 6th grade, and then you started working with students at the same age, right? And getting them just like giving back. Have you? Gosh, your CV is just enormous. It's just
ridiculous.
You've done so much volunteer work. Have you also been able to get back to your university?
So yeah, that was the best thing about being able to graduate and not only give back to the university, but be a testament for those who were in my position. I wouldn't say necessarily giving back to the university as much as it is giving back to the students of the university. That's what I really want to impact. I can give dollar amounts to students rather than the university, because the students, those are the ones that make the whole campus. So in retrospect of being able to give back to the university, they still have all my research. So that's my one gift to them. But the lighters of, being able to give back, I'm still connected with my GRL lab, and they hope from time to time they're even able to connect with the students that were in high school last year and now are at Michigan State. They have a safety net. That's one way of me being able to give back, of who are the students that need help. If you're in high school, like I'm teaching high school and middle school students right now, if you're going to a university, look for a TRIO program, look for tutoring programs. That's my way of being able to give back to the students that are going to the universities. But I know Michigan State will be asking for some monetary gift donations in around 6 months. So I'm also looking forward to that.
They all do. I'm like, when I pay off my student loans, then we'll talk.
All right.
Graduated 2 days ago.
Yeah. I graduated more than 2 days ago and I'm still not ready.
So what was your what has been your best memory so far with the students that you interact with?
I would say the best memory that I've had so far is, gosh, it's hard to pick one, but I would possibly say being able to take the students and bring them to a gala. That was the best experience I've had with the students so far, because it shows how far the students have came. The students I'm teaching in the class, it's an amazing experience, and every single day I teach them is something different, because kids are all over the place. So other than being able to just teach the children in class, my favorite experience has to be bringing them to the SPE Automotive Gala, and not only having representation of male and female, but having representation of different races within the conference as well, to be able to shine a light on what could possibly be in the future if we continue down this path.
Oh, I love that, like so
Yeah.
much.
And you know who it makes me think of, which I'm like gonna cry now. Vicky Flares.
Yeah.
So you didn't get to meet Vicky, but she's a mentor of ours. And she passed away when she was 53.
Yeah.
54?
Just a few years ago. Not very long ago.
Yeah, she was one of 3 female past presidents of SPE, and she was a professor.
4.
Yeah, she was a professor. Oh, 4?
Yeah, there's been 4 female past presidents.
Yeah.
In 80 years.
Yeah. so kind of a big deal. And she was a professor at I think Fordham in New York, and I believe that was the school that she taught at Fordham. Or was it a CUNY? No, that is, yeah. So but she would always bring her, what was it was it Sue and Nikki that called her like the like mother duck that always had she always brought her students wherever she went. And it was like, she really brought, these kids from the Bronx, and she just kept them so engaged. She, would always bring so many students, the most diverse group of students that I've seen.
And, there's something to be
SPE.
said for, just being able to see people that look like you in a place you didn't think people like you existed, like, even if it's a small number or a small amount, it's like, oh, okay, it's possible. And it's just, I love seeing like young students getting involved at like events, or like, my favorite is whenever I'm at like a trade show and you'll see like a little group of students, that like somebody was like, hey, let's bring these students here. And they're all just like staring around at all the like machinery going by, and like it's so overwhelming, but it's like, oh, I know that's going to stick in your mind, and you're going to be like, wow, that is so much cooler than I thought it was, and look at all these people and look what I can do. And like, you just step so much outside of yourself, and I just love it. I love that you did that.
Yeah, I want to actually, I think we're both planning on coming to the Plastics News Conference in Detroit in May, the injection molding and design. So
yes, we are. I just gotta remember to put it on my calendar.
There, and we can COVID friendly high five them, or hopefully that's over by then.
Through the elbow, we'll just like stay behind some plexiglass. We'll just make it happen. I did forget that we said we were going to do that, but I will put it on my calendar now.
I only remembered it today because it was like on the last page of Plastics News today.
Perfect. Oh, see, I haven't read mine this week. So we're good. Okay. So, talking about students, and kind of the buzzword around like students is get kids into STEM, get kids into STEM, get kids into STEM. And not that this is a new concept, but there has been push to change STEM to STEAM, adding the arts into it. What are your thoughts on that? Hot takes?
I wholeheartedly agree with the concept of changing STEM to STEAM. When I'm not an arts person at all. I don't have creativity. I mean, I have creativity, but not like, putting it on paper type of thing and just express it, But there's so many talented artists out here that are using not only just their platform, but their degree to speak for themselves. The whole thing about it is if you're a child, people push you towards engineering, STEM, math, but they forget about the arts as well, because the arts is a major component, especially of a developing child. So a kid could be interested in engineering, but maybe they're interested in the coloring of products. Maybe they're interested in the product development side. Maybe they're interested in the advertising of it. It's those type of components that we don't think about when it comes to STEM. And that's where STEAM comes in. It allows you to express creativity while still being able to have all of those other letters with you as well.
You had mentioned the Geocognition Lab that, it was really, focused on access, inclusion, and equity in STEM, or maybe not STEAM, and I think that broadening it to the arts, including that makes it, for me, someone who definitely had much more of an artistic background and was terrified of science and engineering, but absolutely adore it now. Huge nerd for it. It would have seemed so much more accessible to me, right? And approachable, a lot less threatening when it's like, oh, one of the letters I can kind of do. So why are these lumped together and how do they relate?
That's totally like a great point, because I was going to be a music major, and like it was, I've told the story many times, but like it was the old cheerleading accident that led to a couple surgeries on my wrist and kind of an inability to play at a professional level, if I was even considering that. And I just happened to go to a class that had a little tabletop injection molding machine. It's the cutest freaking thing. And I stumbled into it. But like you're saying, had I seen the A in STEAM, I could have been like, all right, like I'm not bad at math. I by no means like loved every aspect of math or loved every aspect of science. I like good chunks of it, but I wasn't like, science nerd of the year award or anything like that. But to associate, it's kind of the same thing. Like you go and you see something in yourself in that phrase, and you start to think like, oh, this isn't impossible. This isn't for like just those like super smart kids that are great at every math test. Like, no, average kids can be in it too.
Mm-hmm.
Proof.
100%. You need a direction. You need people to be able to put ideas to paper in a creative way. And arts, that's completely about it as well. And there's so many different aspects. But when we talk about turning STEM into STEAM, it's way more inclusive and gets children's minds thinking like, okay, so like you said, STEM isn't just defined as I have to go into an engineering or science type of background. When we dismiss that fear, that's when we're more acceptable to change. So I'm excited for it.
I remember there was a Pennsylvania, like the state sponsored video about plastics as like a, career, going to Penn State and Williamsport, because there's the two colleges and they're both technically state schools. And John Beaumont was interviewed for one of it. And I remember him saying, we need artists as well. And I remember thinking like, I yes, we do. Like it totally, because it's not associated as just a STEM, field, but a STEAM field. I don't think it would have been such a holy cow, you're blowing my mind kind of situation.
Weren't you also in that video? I recall being jealous that it was the thing that you did that I didn't do.
I was in the video and I embarrassed myself.
Walking downstairs or something.
What? Oh yeah,
there's like walking.
There's a whole like scene where they're like, and turn around and smile, and I'm like,
I love STEM / STEAM. So how do we, because we're sold on the STEAM idea, how do we go about changing that as, a community, as a society? How does that change happen?
I think it's more of recognizing it. It's when people think art or, artists, they think of, Van Gogh, they think of their favorite singer, songwriter. They don't think about, you could be, and I hope you can attest to this, Mercedes, but they could be working on 3D printing. 3D printing is engineering, but at the same time, it also is arts because you're forming something. The kids that are working on 3D printing right now in 7th grade, they started first creating blocks and squares, and now they're able to create shapes and do all of this amazing things with 3D printing that it's over my head, So when you think about it, it's just, if you tell a kid this is just engineering, they'll think about it as just engineering. But if you tell them it's engineering, but it also has art within it as well, and you can use that artistic piece, that outlet, to be able to express a design, it's STEAM,
Absolutely. I mean, and it's especially for my other division, as the color and appearance division of SPE, you find a lot of artists who work in color and appearance. Scott Allman, who has been on the SPE board for many years, he is one of the big names in the division. He was a graphic designer, right? Like, he didn't have a STEM background. He was a graphic designer. And in fact, Celine, a few people in my labs, but yeah, product development engineer at Vortex Liquid Color. She was a double major of biology and art. She was an art major, and it's like, she's like, this kind of really prepared me, having a science and an art background prepared me perfectly to be a product development engineer in a color lab.
It as you say that, like, I'm reminded of the fact that a lot of schools associate like business and engineering as like the two like simpatico degrees. Really, what would it take to start having those industry, or having those like engineering programs start associating, or at least flirting with the art programs, because, what would that have done for an engineer who's thinking about getting into like the design aspect, like loves like CAD design, to take, as your general ed, take some art classes, like, it doesn't have to be like, okay, now you have a double major or anything like that. But just something as simple as like, hey, I'm going to strongly suggest that you start looking at art classes, that you start looking at, whatever, design classes. And same way with, art majors. Say, hey, why don't you take this like like, why not make it easy to let them take like an entry level CAD? Like, there's no way they can't do that. Like, I had no CAD experience when I started. I'm fine now. Like, that there should be some more, I think, if we start talking about this and start, maybe educating like academic advisors into kind of making those suggestions, start small. It doesn't have to be world changing at the beginning, but those small steps could lead to more integration of the two practices.
100%. And even to the people watching, if you're, the young, old, just the whole idea behind STEAM is its inclusion. I can be a scientist and I can work on technology at the same time. And that doesn't exist. It's not exclusive to anything else, because it's all a part of it. You know what I mean? So if we add arts to it, because arts is a form, I think that'll start to change the minds and the ways that we perceive the current stance of what is art, and now we have an understanding of what art could be. So just adding STEAM, getting those conversations in the door, and allowing the opportunity for student and student groups on different campuses to express their choosing of, we want to be included within this club, we want to be included within this meeting because we are STEAM.
I love it. And not to, drill this point home a little bit more, but who does a really wonderful job at kind of like highlighting that is Patricia Miller of M4.
Yeah.
She has, I don't know if she still has that guy there, but she had like a resident artist who would actually make like sculptures with their purge. So like such a cool idea. And it doesn't have to be, it's just highlighting that like, this isn't just waste. It's not.
Did you see that she's putting a huge, amazing mural on the side of her factory?
Yeah, I did see that.
So yeah, she has an artist in residence program. And I thought about trying to actually do that, but I was a little bit intimidated. But when I, when I was in between jobs, I was like, oh, maybe I could go there and paint the injection molders, but not paint them, but like paint pictures of them. That's like a little hobby of mine, painting injection molders.
Actually, I was gonna say I have my painted Sumitomo behind this computer.
I painted a picture of the machine that made Lynzie cry in college.
It did, but also
just
from my Mr. Young, Brian Young.
I know. I keep thinking of your Mr. Young.
He made me cry. He said he fixed it. I mean, he did also make me cry. So,
actually, the second one in a row that we've talked about him comes up a lot.
He's getting real popular.
So we're running short on time here, Evan. But I mean, you are at the very beginning of what I anticipate is going to be a magnificent and inspiring career. What, I guess, two-part question, what really, really drives you deep down? And then two, what advice would you give or what advice probably do you give every day to the next generation?
So I would definitely say the one thing that really keeps me going is I don't know how people take it, but just that I'm here. I'm grateful to be here, present within this moment. And that's what drives me every day, because I used to not be here. I used to not be here mentally, and it's coming from immaturity to maturity in such a short time frame of a year. It really makes a difference for you because you understand the world for what it is and not what you want it to be. So it might be a little,
I'm just sitting here thinking like, God, you are so impressive. Like,
yeah.
I'm like more impressed with you every second. I can't even handle it.
Thank you. But that's what's really drives me, is just, I could have had the opportunity to go home and, not come back to college, but instead I was able to stay at East Lansing and find my way in opportunities to even gaining a sustainability internship at the Student Housing Cooperative, which has never been heard of. When that happened, I knew I was here for a reason. When I got into SHROP at Michigan State University in the summer, and I wasn't even, might be a little too much information, I wasn't even a university student at the time.
We love too much information.
You have to have a safety net. You have to have people that you can lean on, people who care for you, people who want to check up on you. So if I could give the next generation, people listening, any bit of advice, it's find your community, not your colony. If you find a community, you're able to commute with them, you're able to join in community, you're able to be better than yourself because you have people around you trying to do the same thing. But a colony, a hive kind of mindset, kind of status, it's good, but make sure that the people, if you have a colony or a hive mind kind of way around, your world and how you want your friends to be, just make sure you're doing it in a positive light. None of you are downplaying each other's talents and abilities. None of you are straying each other towards a path you shouldn't go. And if you do notice your friends or your social group doing that, that's when you either start to stray away from the situation, or you try to help them to become the person that not only you want them to be, but that they want themselves to be, but something's holding them back. So never give up on the people around you, but at the same time, always look for the people who can improve you while you keep improving yourself, because it's a community at the end of the day. We all have different struggles. We all have different traumas, and we all come from different places, but we're here to help each other. We're here to grow. We're here to learn. We're here to succeed and see more people, not only like me and you, but people we haven't even met before, become our circle, become our community, become people we can rely on, because that's just the way it is. It's a circle of passion, circle of community, circle
Can you
of life.
just like text me like just good thoughts every day? Like I just
That's amazing. He has the Benjamin Buttons. You have to be like, you have to be like
Benjamin Button.
You have like so much. I love it.
It's actually reverse 85 years old.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
43. People tell me I act like I'm 43 inside a 25-year-old body. So, it's just,
Amazing. Well, Evan Morton, thank you so much for joining us today on, I almost said PlastiVan. That's your job.
You do PlastiVan, we'll do PlastChicks.
You do PlastChicks. Where can people get in touch with you? Do you still have your website?
Yeah. So first, thank you both for having me on here. I love the experience. You both are amazing, and this was amazing. So thank you. And if you would like to find me, there are a couple of avenues you can take. One is emailing me at emorton@4spe.org, where you can also visit my website, www.greentears.org. That's where you can find more content about me, more about my background. And if you would like to inquire or even connect, then please don't hesitate to call me, email me, text me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Evan. And I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Definitely.